Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Ladies and gentlemen, before we start, please excuse the lighting. I'm trying to work on that, trying to get better lighting in here. Now that we're getting more sun, it seems that there's more shadows. And I got a new microphone on the recommendation of actually the IT team over at Nutrient Survival. They told me what microphone to get, which was the best one to get. And I'm trying it out, so let me know how the sound comes in. Let's go ahead and talk about this. Chronic shortages of a few items now will evolve into chronic shortages of hundreds of products later in 2022. That's this year, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to say I said this or I said that, but let me tell you what. We've been talking about this for a while, that we are going to have shortages in everything. Prepare what you need in every category that you need it in. I know someone that went out and bought themselves 2 brand new set of tires for each of their vehicles. All right, no, it's not me. I already had it. I got it last year. We talked about rubber shortage last year, and someone listened to that and they went out and bought an extra set of tires for each of their vehicles, brand new, which I think is a great idea. So start looking at these things. Start looking at the things that you depend on an everyday basis. I'm not talking about toys that you throw away a month after you get them, but things that you depend on an everyday basis. I never showed you this on a payday prep, but for example, I use a water pick. My wife and I use a water pick before we go to bed every night, or we're supposed to use one before we go to bed every night. I'm not that great at it, but I do it on a regular basis. And we noticed that our water pick is already getting a little bit old, and you can tell by the sound of the pump. So Costco had a couple of water picks on sale for a very good price. So I told my wife, I was like, should we pick one of these up and just put it away just in case? And she said, yeah, that's a good idea. Plus, this is a great price. Another thing that I got that I didn't necessarily have to get, but I know that I use a lot, and the one that I have is going, bad because it's getting pretty old. My food saver. My food saver, I would say, is close to, if not at least 10 years old. And I can tell when I'm using it, because I use it so much, I can tell that the pump is starting to sound like it's struggling a little bit. Sometimes it sounds like it's going to go, but I told my wife I'm going to keep using this until it's completely dead. All right. And for Christmas last year, she got me a food saver that was on sale. So these are the things that you want to look at, not necessarily a food saver or a water pick, but these are things, ladies and gentlemen, that not only do we use to prep, but that we use in our everyday life. And preparedness, ladies and gentlemen, is not just about surviving. It's about maintaining your standard of living. The better that you can maintain your normalcy, your everyday life when a major crisis occurs, the more time that you have to react and think about what your next steps are going to be. So let's go ahead and see what they have to say here. What we have witnessed so far is just the beginning of the story. The global response to the health crisis during 2020 and 21 created the most epic supply chain crisis in modern times. And now, black swan events, such as the war in Ukraine, the bird flu pandemic, are making the supply chain crisis even worse. Unfortunately, more global difficulties are coming. There will be more war. And ladies and gentlemen, I have to agree with that. Whenever there is a resource problem amongst the world, countries go to war. When a country that is neighboring another country that is prosperous, and this country is not, maybe they need food or water or minerals, whatever it may be, they usually go to war. It's just human nature to try to take something from someone that doesn't belong to you. There will be more pestilence. There will be more natural disasters. And even the United Nations is admitting that we are heading into the worst global food crisis since World War II. I hope that you're preparing, ladies and gentlemen, and I say this wholeheartedly. I hope that you are getting prepared. I hope that you're looking ahead. These are the kind of videos that I like to bring out to you so that we can take a look at what may be happening in the future. I know I've said it before, but just in case there's someone new here, we can take a look at what may be happening in the future. So what shortages may be happening in the future? Okay, take a look at it. We talked about rubber, about a year ago. We talked about rubber. Well, look at what's happening now. Right? Now they're telling us that because of the industries that are shutting down and the bottlenecks that we have in our system, in our supply system, the way that we move it around, that there may be more shortages coming. Because, for example, let's take that microchip shortage that we've been having, and is possibly getting worse. You know, that microchip goes into a lot of different things. Not only does it go into cars, it goes into refrigerators, it goes into computer systems that utility companies need in order to operate, into computer systems and hardware or software as well that hospitals need in order to operate. So it affects an awful lot of things. But the question that you want to be asking yourself is this: what kind of shortages will affect my lifestyle? They continue on. If you go into most major retailers today, you will notice that stock levels are lower than usual and there are some empty shelves. But most items are still available most of the time, and that is good news. Why is that good news? Because you still have time to prepare. Of course, there are certain product categories that have been experiencing chronic shortages for an extended period of time. For example, supplies of canned pet food have been extremely tight for months on end. The next time you go to the pet store, don't be surprised to see some empty shelves. Many pet stores are facing a shortage of canned pet food. And of course, we've all heard about box stores, big box stores, putting a limit on how many bags of dog food or pet food you can buy per visit. Right now, there just aren't enough cheap sources of chicken and turkey due to the bird flu pandemic. There is an ongoing shortage of aluminum, and there is a shortage of factory workers. So who would have ever thought that if we had a shortage of aluminum, that is going to affect dog food or cat food? So think about it, ladies and gentlemen. Last year we talked about a shortage of rubber. And who'd have ever thought back then that a shortage of rubber was going to affect the price of what you pay for your car tires, you know, and other things that have rubber in them. So think about these things whenever you hear something or read an article. There's going to be a shortage of this or that. Ask yourself, how is that going to affect me in the future? What do I use now that may contain that item? And then I can maybe take a look out into the future and see if I will need some of that stuff. So the canned pet food shortage is not going to be fixed anytime soon. Another shortage that is going to affect much of the country as we head into the summer is the chlorine shortage. I was not even aware of this shortage until readers alerted me. Apparently, this shortage was originally caused by the destruction of a manufacturing facility in Louisiana by Hurricane Laura. While the health crisis takes its share of the blame, the even larger reason for the current chlorine shortage is that a major chlorine manufacturing plant in Louisiana was destroyed by Hurricane Laura in late 2020, where a fire leveled the facilities and took nearly 40% of the country's chlorine tablet supply with it. The manufacturing plant is being rebuilt and is currently under construction. It was due to reopen by mid to late 2022, but those plans could be pushed back due to the ongoing construction material shortages. So it's just a snowballing effect, ladies and gentlemen. And meanwhile, the nationwide baby formula shortage continues to get even worse. But at least we can be glad that things are not as bad here as they are in Europe. Over there, widespread rationing of certain products have already begun, and expect that to happen in the country that you live in. Not just here in the United States, but the country that you live in, we are going to have rationing, ladies and gentlemen. For example, it was just announced that Tesco is now limiting each customer to 3 bottles of cooking oil. I've been telling you to get your cooking oil for a long time now, so you better have it. And they say that if record high food prices weren't enough, the Russian-Ukraine conflict has cooked off the world's sunflower oil supply, forcing the largest supermarket in the UK to begin rationing. And they continue to say that this shortage is related directly to the war on Ukraine, and that this war is making a whole host of ongoing problems even worse. And it will continue to get worse, ladies and gentlemen. Just wait until the natural forces take place with the droughts that we're having, with the flooding that we're having. I read an article early this morning about a state that is so wet that they cannot plant their wheat. So think about it. I talked to a very good friend of mine yesterday who owns a small ranch that plants wheat on an annual basis. And this year they're not planting wheat. They're planting something else because their ground is so dry that it will be done for nothing. And this person also told me that farmers in the area planted wheat already, and they tried to replant it to no avail. That it's just a lost cause. The common refrain about the health crisis was that it sped up changes and trends that were already happening. We believe the same is true of the war. Inflation, supply chain problems, and shortages of energy, food, raw materials, and labor were already an issue that the war has now accelerated. Sadly, he is quite correct, and at this point, there appears to be no hope that this war will end anytime soon. You know what? I was watching a video yesterday, and I'm not good with remembering names, ladies and gentlemen, but I was watching a video showing how many troops and how much equipment have already been lost in Ukraine to Russia, or by Russia, meaning that Russia has already lost 20,000 plus service members of their military. I believe they said infantrymen, 20-something thousand plus. That's incredible. They're not going to end this war anytime soon. I think they're too much vested in what's going on there to get out of it anytime soon. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the time to prepare. Now, I still stand by what I've said before, that we have till about the middle of summer before the masses wake up, before the many wake up to what's going on. It's going to hit them at once, and they're going to rush to the stores and clean out the shelves. So get prepped as soon as you can. Slow and steady wins the race, but try to pick up the pace if you are able to. I'm skimming through this article, but I will leave it on a pinned comment, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to come and revisit it. They say here that prior to 2022, you can even remember a time when a sitting member of the U.S. Senate publicly warned that a worldwide famine was coming. I remember that. I put up a video about that back in, I believe it was August of 2021 or 2020. Either 1 or 2 years ago. I keep forgetting whether it was 21 or 2020. But I put up that video. So go check it out. A congressman came out of his mouth. What are we going to do about food shortages? We're going to have major food shortages. Nobody was listening back then. They just pretty much shut him off. And the good news, ladies and gentlemen, is like I've said before. In the United States, there aren't anyone starving. People aren't starving for the most part, right? Like you don't see people in the street starving to death. You know, but what they're saying here is what I've been warning about for a long time. Prices are going to keep getting higher. That is why, in my opinion, one of the best investments you can make, if you want to invest in stocks, invest in a well-stocked pantry. And I came up with that, by the way. But food prices are certainly going up dramatically, and the mainstream media is doing lots of stories about it. For example, the following original comes from USA Today, and they say Kevin Tate stretches a pot of spaghetti for 3 days of meals. And this lady, Esmeralda Cortez, gets eggs and bread from the food bank so that she can afford laundry detergent at the store. And Mr. Donnie Whitfield buys generic cereals instead of the Kellogg's he prefers. That's another thing that we talked about in the past, is that you were going to see people's buying habits shift from brand name items to generic. And then that you were also going to see the brands, the many brands, shrink down to a few brands until in the worst of times, you'll probably only have one brand. Hopefully it's not the brand that's put out by government. Although unemployment continues dropping and wages are on the rise all across the country, low-income people are struggling to put food on the table as skyrocketing inflation and high gas prices take a bigger bite of their already small paychecks. And this wages rising and everything like that, wages aren't rising, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe nominally they are. People may be making more money, nominally, but they're not making higher wages. If you understand what I mean, because if you make $100 this week and that $100 can buy you, let's say 50 gallons of gasoline, and you make $150 next week, but that $150 can only buy you 30 gallons of gasoline, have your wages really gone up? Maybe nominally they have, but your pay hasn't really gone up. It's in reality, it's gone down. And to finish it off, ladies and gentlemen, I'll leave it with this. Maybe this will wake some people up. Hopefully you're still here if you're not convinced just yet. As Senator Marshall admitted, there will be a worldwide famine, and there is no avoiding it now. Do you believe that there will be a worldwide famine with all of the pundits that are talking about it now? With all of the warnings that have been coming, not just from the mainstream media, not just from social media, but from world leaders, from central banks, from everyone is warning about it now. Us conspiracy theorists, us preppers here on YouTube, conspiracy theorists, we've been warning about it for years. But now everyone is warning about it. So are you awake yet? Because if you're not, then it is you that's going to suffer, you and your family. These are such troubled times, and they are only going to become even more troubled as the months roll along. So heed the warning, ladies and gentlemen. Heed the warning. I hope that if you're here for the first time, that you're still here on this part of the video so that I can say thank you very much for joining in today. I hope that you have a great week or rest of your week, and I hope that you're prepping up, because it's no longer a hobby, it's serious. And if you don't believe me, just turn on the news. I think any channel nowadays is talking about it. All right, go ahead and believe those liars that have been lying to you for years. And now that you're used to them lying to you, I don't know, maybe hopefully you'll believe them this time. All right, hopefully you'll believe them, because they will only tell you the truth, ladies and gentlemen, when it's almost too late or too late altogether. So listen to people that actually care about their countrymen, and I do. Having said that, have a great day. Remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place, and you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to all of you and your families. I'm Alaska Prepper. I am out. Ladies and gentlemen, I understand that not everyone is in the part of their preparedness plan where they should be storing long-term freeze-dried food. But if you are, take a look at Nutrient Survival. I stand behind this food because it is the most nutrient-dense food in the market. It tastes great, they have outstanding customer service, and the company is run by great people that I call my friends. You're not going to find a more nutrient-dense food that tastes good and is reasonably priced when compared to other major brands. I wouldn't stand behind Nutrient Survival if I didn't personally use it and love it. So feed your freedom with Nutrient Survival.